My first question, I have two, is to Mr. Gillis. Mr. Gillis, when a minister was here, I asked a question about what seems to be impending cuts to the shrimp stocks off Newfoundland and Labrador. And I know in a later answer, you mentioned how ocean conditions have an impact on stocks, have a big impact, and there's no doubt warming water temperatures, for example, they do have an impact. But if you mention, for example, in the fall of the commercial groundfish fisheries like cod or flounder, you mentioned the impact of ocean conditions to anyone back home in Newfoundland and Labrador and say that that was a primary reason why stocks fell, they'd laugh at you. Bottom line is, I think what's generally acknowledged is that mismanagement and overfishing are behind the fall of most of our commercial groundfish fisheries, for example. And again, bringing it back to when the minister was here, now we see a huge decline in the biomass of shrimp that's going to lead to huge cuts in shrimp quotas. And again, you talk about ocean conditions. And so I have to take you up on that. How much faith should people have in DFO science or in department itself when we see stock after commercial stock fall? The offshore shrimp is just the latest in a whole line of stocks that have fallen under this department's department. How much faith should we have in the science, sir?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to answer that. We have a great deal of confidence in the science regarding shrimp and crab and other species that are subject to changes in the natural environment. When we were managing cod and the changes took place that impacted the productivity of cod, we never adjusted our fishing practices at that time, and we've learned an awful lot from that. What we're facing right now are changing oceanographic conditions off of Newfoundland in particular. We're seeing warmer water temperatures on the bottom, and that is having a direct impact on the productivity of crustaceans, and therefore there's been an observed change. We also have in place the precautionary approach and decision-making framework. So in the shrimp fishery, for example, our decision rules are that we keep a very low harvest rate on those populations. And if you look at the declines in the biomass, you're seeing 33% decline in Area 6, a 48% decline in Area 5 as we go north, and 21% in Area 4. Those are significant, and what we're needing to do is contemplate how to respond to those. But we are looking at maintenance of very low harvest rates notwithstanding that. So we had a harvest rate in the north of about 8%, which is low for a short-lived animal. And we are going to maintain harvest rates at a level that will be acceptable to the Marine Stewardship Council and to us in terms of our precautionary framework. So we're not going to exceed a 20% harvest rate in these areas. So you can see the declines are coming from fishing effort because the declines are greater than the harvest rates. That's because we're seeing a change in the productivity of these populations relevant to the new oceanographic conditions. And they're shifting back to what it was like in the 60s and 70s when the groundfish were in good shape. We're also seeing some improvement in groundfish, but not as rapidly as we're seeing the changes in the shellfish. So that's the reality. Is we live in a natural system, and we have to respond to that and adapt to that natural system. And that's just the reality that we're facing. And I think the idea...
I got one more quick... I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Bevan. I've just got another minute, so I want to get another quick question in. I do want to take you up on one point, though, and that is that we are seeing some increase in groundfish levels, but still 1% of 1960 levels for codfish, for example, is for me, it's no increase whatsoever. My second question has to do with a question that Mr. McCauley asked earlier in terms of DFO libraries. I put in a question on the order paper as a parliamentarian. I can ask a question on the order paper in the House of Commons. My question was for a list of all documents, materials, books, research papers that have been destroyed by the department in Newfoundland and Labrador due to the closure of the library. And the response I got back to the question on the order paper was to charge me a total of $675. And my question is, Do you see that as cost prohibitive? And DFO wouldn't be trying to hide anything, would they, Mr. Bevan?
No, we
Or not release
we
the
will
information?
respond. First off, I would point out on the cod, it's 15% of its former level, so it's up from 1% to 15.
Northern cod?
Yeah.
Is 15% of 1960 levels, sir?
It's gone back up to 15% of its limit reference point. So it's not, it's gone up by a considerable amount, but not enough to support any kind of economic activity.
And not 15% either.
It's 15% of its limit reference point.
Northern cod is at 15% of 1960 levels?
No, the limit reference point. So it's not not the same as the thing. I can't, you know, on the question order, the question you asked, we provide that information. We go very thoroughly through all our information, and I have to attest to the accuracy and veracity of that information. We take that very seriously. I don't have an answer to your question here with me, but certainly we'll get back to you on that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sopak.